Okay, today I will talk about HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. Now, before I do that, I encourage everybody to download a text editor. In my case, I'll use Visual Studio Code. Here's the link. Okay, so I'll do some HTML, which is used to build web pages today. So just as an overview, if you go in the browser, in your computer, or in your phone, be it anywhere where you can see a browser, and you go to a page or website, application, social media, whatever it is, how's that built? Well, that's built, what you see is built HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But what are these elements? These three basic elements for the front end, what we call the front end, what everybody sees. Well, the HTML has to do with the structure of the document. How is it going to be laid out? Whereas the CSS is what makes it pretty, and then the JavaScript makes it interactive and dynamic. So we're going to touch upon those topics each in different sessions. Today is dedicated to just HTML because we got to learn how to do that. It's very core foundation. Okay, so let's open VS Code and find somewhere where you want to start a project. In my case, I'm going to use the repository. Remember, this is the repository I'm going to use to keep all the code. And it's going to be available there. If you go get there on GitHub after class, you will see it there. So I'm going to go here and share. Let me share my thing. Somebody's waiting. Wow, where is it? This new Zoom UI is really bad. I cannot find the thing I want to share. There you go. So basically, I am in my file system. I created a directory for which is what you see on GitHub. And this is where I'll be writing the code. So first you got to create a new file called index.html. But before I do that, I'm going to move on to VS Code. I just wanted to show you this, that you can do it on Mac with Finder, or you can do it on Windows with File Explorer, whatever. Or you can do from Visual Studio Code itself. Okay, I don't know how familiar people are with navigating the file system and creating new files, so that's why I have to show you this. Anyway, I'm here, I open Visual Studio Code, I open File, open Folder with that directory that I'm going to use for the project. And let me create a folder here called SRC, which stands for source, for the source code. And I'm going to go inside there and create a file called index.html. Now, this is where we're going to write the code for the HTML page. Basically, whenever you have a web page, you got to create one file with the extension .html. And then we start writing the HTML code, which is basically what we're going to see later as tags. But let me show you in the browser before I move on, because maybe some people have never seen it. So I'm going to open Chrome. So any web page that you want to see how it was built, it's actually open source. For example, this is the code. I can right click anywhere and click View Page Source. This function should be available in any browser. And this is actually how this page was built with all this code. And this code that you're seeing right now is what we call HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. If you ever heard of XML, HTML is like a special case, okay, with specific tag names. Anyway, we're going to learn how to do this. So let's go back to the code. Here. So it's nice to write the code, but we want to see how it looks like. How do we see what it looks like? Well, you could open this file in your browser, but that's kind of tedious. So another way of having a live preview is if you go VS Code extensions and you install Microsoft Live Preview extension. This one here, if you install that, you can go to the file, Control-Shift-P. I'm on Windows. So I can type a live preview with the internal browser. And that should show me on the side a browser window. So I don't have to have separate ones, okay? If you don't want to do this way, you would have to go into and open this file in the browser. For example, I can right click here, reveal in File Explorer, and that should open the File Explorer window. And here I am in File Explorer. I can go right click index.html, open with any browser of your choice, Chrome, Firefox, whatever. Then you click there, and then it should open that page in the browser. Obviously, there's nothing right now. So whenever you make a change to the code, make sure to click refresh afterwards. So you're going to write the code, save the file, go to the browser, refresh. Okay, if you're doing this way without the live preview. Okay, now with that out of the way, going back to VS Code, let's do some HTML. Basically, you got to do some boilerplate first. So please be patient. So the first thing you got to do is tell, okay, what version of HTML are we using? These days, HTML5, okay? So to do that, we're going to say the doc type tag. So you have to say less than, exclamation, and then all caps, doc type, like this, okay? And then space HTML. Okay, that's how, hey, I want a browser. When you read this file, I want you to interpret that using the version 5 of HTML. Okay, and finish off with the greater than. That's out of the way, break a line there. Let me disable my Copilot thing because auto completing that. And I don't want us, because we're beginners right now, we don't want to be helped. Otherwise, we don't know what we're doing. It's best we write from scratch. Let me just reload this. Give me 1 second. Reload. Okay, I'm back. All right, with that out of the way, now we gotta write what's called a HTML tag. So what you're gonna do is less than HTML, greater than, and then break a line there. Usually it adds this space, which is called indentation. Whenever you open a tag, this is called a tag, by the way. When you have the angle brackets or the less than and greater than, that's a tag. That's the open tag. And then it's always usually at least two spaces on the left. And then we're going to open another tag called a head. So the HTML page has two sections under the HTML. So it has the head and has the body. The body is what everybody sees on the screen. And the head is used for more metadata stuff about the document. And metadata could be something like, what do we see in the tab title in the browser? That's metadata under the head, under the title tag. Now I talk about document because HTML originally was created to share scientific documents. So that's the terminology you're going to see a lot when you talk about websites and web pages. You're going to talk about documents. Okay. Okay, so let's add the head tag with less than, head, greater than. Now under the head, remember, we're open another tag. So it adds automatically two spaces indentation for me because I'm using VS Code. So then finally, I want to add the title. So we have the title for this document. Let's say intro to HTML. And did you notice as I'm typing, the tab here is changing? That's because of the title here. So basically, I have an open tag for title, which is basically the angle brackets surrounding the word title. Type whatever you want to show in the tab here. And then you finish off with what's called the closing tag. And the closing tag is almost the same as the open, except there's a slash right after the first angle bracket or less than sign. Okay, it's always like that. So that defines the title for this document. And you can see on the right-hand side, intro to HTML appears there. And if I change it, you'll see it change it as well. Anyway, we'll finish off with the head, but I don't need to specify anything else. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go back indentation because I'm going to close it. Less than slash, that's a closing tag for head. And the reason people do indentation, it's not that it's necessary. It's just that it's easier on our eyes as humans to read the code. And also you can see when we put the open tag lining up vertically on the same level as the closing, you can see that this one is closing this one because you see that vertical line there added by Visual Studio Code. So that's the reason we usually do that. Obviously, you could write the code like this and it will be just the same, or even like this, okay? But I just think it's easier to see when everything is structured a certain way using indentation. Okay, we finish off the head. Now let's open the body, angle brackets body, close angle brackets. And then this is where we're going to type the content of the website. But before I do that, let me just close it with the body like this. And did you notice that VS Code automatically removed the indentation because I put a closing tag? And let me close the HTML there. And this one, it didn't do it, so I got to do it manually. So this way I know, okay, this HTML closing that, this body closing this. Now, under the body is what people are going to see, the content. So let's learn how to write a paragraph. That's the easiest thing I can think of. So angle brackets, P, that's the name of the element, close angle brackets, and then type something. Let's type Lorem Ipsum. And then close off with the closing tag like this. So this is an open tag for the paragraph. This is a closing tag. Now you can see it uses abbreviation. Okay, so we call it P, not paragraph spelled out. That's just the way it is. So in HTML, we build things with what we call elements. Okay, so under the body, we have a paragraph element here, and we have its opening tag, and then we have the text that will be shown in the as a paragraph. And then finally, you close this. That is, you tell it, hey, I finished my paragraph, therefore I'm closing the tag. You're closing with the closing paragraph tag. Gangle bracket slash, okay? It's always the same. Name of the element for both of them has to be the same. Okay, so in HTML, you just gotta know what elements are available, and then you can start writing and building, okay? Now you can see on the right-hand side, Lorem Ipsum appears, and that's a paragraph. Now I'm going to open this in a separate browser so you can see it works the same. If you recall, I had opened the file, right, in Finder on Mac or File Explorer, open with a browser. I'll choose Google Chrome. And then what I'm going to do is go to Chrome. Let me find it. And I have the file open here. I had the old version, so I have to click refresh to actually get the latest. Great. I'm going to show you how to, you can see you already saw that if I right click view page source, I'm able to see how this website was built. And you can see it's the exact same code we wrote just now. Okay, so this is the view page source function. So actually you can go to any website, your favorite website today, right click view page source to see how it's built because all the front end code is open source. Another way to see the live document instead of the original that was loaded is if you open the developer tools. One way is right click and click inspect. And it should open this panel here, usually at the bottom, but you can change it. If you click the three dots, you can choose to be on the sides, three dots, or even as an external window. I'm using Chrome right now, so if you're using Firefox, this will read the inspector tab. Okay, so it's the same thing, same functionality, but some different names for the tabs that you see. And this section is very important under elements, which is the live document view. This is where you can see the actual document as it is right now at this point in time. And you can see, you can expand and collapse things to see what's inside each of the tags. That's very convenient. You can even go further and change stuff here. If you double click Lorem Ipsum, you put 1, 2, 3, 4, click outside. You should see it change it here. So it's very powerful. Now keep in mind, although I change this here, if I click to reload, it will be reloaded with the original version. So that doesn't mean that somebody else will get the same change. It's just temporarily for you only. And the right-hand side here is something about style that we won't talk about much today. It's about the CSS. You can see what default styling is applied to this element. And if you highlight with the mouse pointer here and click there, you can see it highlights in the content. Basically it's telling you this is the element. P, which stands for paragraph. Here's the width. Here's the height, right? Width, X height, cross height. And there's some spacing on the above and below. And as we'll later learn, that's the margin, the space outside. Okay. So going back, what we had, for those who just came in, we just created a file in a directory, called it index.html. And we have Visual Studio Code open with the file here, index.html open. We wrote this boilerplate that I can copy and paste there in the Zoom chat. And this sidebar here with the preview, it's from the extension Microsoft Live Preview. If you look, click this kind of building blocks icon, search for Microsoft Live Preview, this one, install. And then you can do the command palette, Control-Shift-B, and Live Preview, Show Preview Internal Browser to show it. Command palette can also be accessed from View Command Palette if you don't know how to press the keys. Exactly. Okay, View Command Palette should bring that up, and Live Preview. Okay, if you don't want to do that, just open the file in the browser, right-click here, Reviewing a File Explorer, and then right-click the file, open it with any browser you want. Okay, so that's HTML in a nutshell. We have tags that we usually have open and close and something in between for the content that'll be shown. And also for the content of the website, under the body tag here. When I say under the body tag, it means between the open and closing tags. Okay, whenever say, oh, something's inside an element, within an element, that just means between the open and closing. Okay, so if I had put the P out here, it would be outside body, right? That's incorrect because it's right after the closing of the body. So I have to be before the closing, either here or here or here, as long as before the closing and after the open. Anyway, how's everybody doing? So far, so good? Too easy? Most of you, it's too easy. Okay, so you can write more paragraphs very easily. Just, okay, let's add another one. Same deal. What's the name of the element? It's P. Therefore, I put the angle brackets P and then start typing. One nice feature about VS Code that somebody taught me in the last bootcamp is the lorem ipsum like this. Lorem, say I want to generate 7 random words. I can put lorem 7 and tab, and it generates that. So somebody taught me in the last bootcamp, I'm using it. Otherwise, I would have to go to a website to generate random text, lorem ipsum. And then finish off with the closing tag, last in, slash, name of the element that matches the opening tag, which is P, and then close it with the greater than. And there you go, we have a second paragraph. Notice I put them side by side in the code, but they actually appear in separate lines. And that's due to the default styling of the browser. Every browser has some default styles. And the default style is that the paragraphs, they occupy their own row. And if anybody tries to stick next to it, they'll be pushed to the next row. And also it adds spacing at the above and below, which is the margin. And yeah, so my code, I can structure like this, or like this, or like that, or like that, or like that. Doesn't matter, always the same outcome. Usually we like to do like one per line. It looks nice instead of having everything in a very, very long line. That sucks. By the way, I'm using the view wood wrap option right now. If I don't have that, I would have to scroll to a really long line like that. So I don't like this. I don't like scrolling, so I click view word wrap. That's how I get that to appear, to have multiple lines, but it's actually one. If you'll notice, this is line number 7. It occupying the whole thing here due to word wrap. Okay, now the break in line, I think it's nicer to see like that. Yeah, and keep going, building stuff. Obviously, we have other kind of elements that we have to learn. So let's learn another one to put like a title to the document, and that's called the heading element. And there are several levels from 1 to 6. I'm gonna do the first level, so less than, and then I'm gonna say H1 greater than, and start typing the title here. Let me put Lauren 3 for 3 random things, and then close it with less than slash H1 greater than. So this is like a heading tag. It's something like the title of a section. And you see it appears visually as something in bold letters with font size bigger than the usual paragraph ones. Think of it as like maybe denoting a chapter in a book, some sub-content. And then it can go further. Maybe this is a section that from this section, and then it can have like subsections. For example, subsection of that would be H2, a subsection. And if I don't know if you notice, it's slightly smaller in size visually. And then you can keep going and add subsections of subsections of subsections and so on with H3. Let me Lauren 3 there. And I'm gonna just duplicate and change the tags, making sure to change the open and close. And by the way, I can use Control D on Visual Studio Code to select the next thing, and I can change it like this. So I changed both the open and close. So I double click here to select, and then Control D. I select this and that, and I can right arrow and then H5. Finally, the other one, Control D, right arrow, backspace, H6. So just so you know what the other H ends are, it goes from H1 to H6. And visually, it's just text that gets smaller and smaller to denote this is a subsection of that thing as you're talking about. You know, all this was originally meant for documents, scientific documents, but these days, not really what people use them for. So you might see people using HTML elements for a purpose different than the original purpose. So you have to keep that in mind. Anything can be manipulated in HTML. So we're not always going to be what they're originally meant for. Okay, easy enough. Let's talk about links. Oh, actually, before that, I have to tell you how to make things bold and emphasize text and whatever. So let's say Ipsen here. I want to make that like I want to mark this word as what they call strong importance. So I would surround this by the tag called strong and then close it like this. That way, Ipsum here becomes kind of bold visually. So this is just marking this part of the document, this specific word has strong importance. So the reason for having this semantic tag is so that when the computer or any other program, like a search engine, reads your document, they'll understand that this might be some word that's important to when people are searching for things, trying to find information. So maybe they'll give more emphasis to this. Otherwise, if it didn't have that, I wouldn't understand this as something more special than usual. But anyway, the manifestation of that visually is just bold. And then you can also do the kind of emphasis, which is EM. For example, maybe this word constructor, I want to make emphasize. I don't know. You have to look it up. What do you want to use as strong? What do you want to use as emphasis? We can put EM in angle brackets, surround that word, and put the closing tag like this. And it will appear visually like italics, slanted text. And that's those tags. Back in the day, people like to use for both like the B tag and for idiomatic text or italics the I tag. So you can do that. For example, dollar here, I can put a B and then slash B like that, and it will appear bold. And then this adiptis sizing, whatever it's saying, put I and then back slash I, and that becomes slanted. But this is like just using HTML to change style, not necessarily adding any meaning semantically to this word. So that's why people prefer today using strong and EM. So because they want to isolate the semantic meaning from the visuals. So you could have a word that's strong importance, not necessarily appear visually as bold, because anybody could change the style. So that's the meaning of having to use strong versus B. So prefer the semantic one. Okay. And same thing for EM. Just because it's seen italics doesn't mean necessarily that you could not have it italicized and it could still be of emphasis if you still had the yam, whereas this other one is purely kind of visual kind of thing. Although this tag here, you might see it later on if you're doing icons like font awesome. This tag has been repurposed kind of to add icons. Yeah, so you're gonna see that a lot. Some HTML elements, they can be repurposed for whatever thing they want to do. Okay, great. Now let's talk about links. Let's link to another page. Let's say here, I will do, first I'll do like link to an external website and I'll do internal. How about that? So let's say here under this H3, I want to say, I want to go to Google, for example. So the tag to links create hyperlinks or colloquially links, right? Something that you click and goes somewhere is the anchor tag or in short A. So anchor brackets A, and then you type the label, let's say go to Google, and then close it with the less than slash name of the element, in this case A, and greater than. And you see go to Google, but nothing happens when you click, right? It's not highlighted. Usually a link is highlighted. By default will appear as a kind of bluish letter. So you have to give, okay, more information about this. How do we tell a anchor tag where to go? So that's the problem here because the way we know how to add information so far is between the tags, right? But how else do I give additional information on metadata? Well, you can actually give information here in the open tag inside. If you go to its name, put a space, and then to the right, you can add what are called attributes. And the attribute that the link expects is href. And then to give it a value, you have to use equal sign, double quotes, and then type the value between the quotes. In this case, you would type the URL to Google. URL is something that you go to the browser and you see in the address bar, right? If you go to the browser, you see this part here, that's the URL, right? You go here, this is the URL. So you can copy that. Obviously, remember it's http colon slash slash www.google.com, for example, for Google. So I can use that. HTTP. I can use AS too. That's HTTP secure. www.google.com. So if I click that, it should go to Google. Obviously, this environment, I think it's gonna open a page and it's gonna be all blanked out here. It's kind of weird. So I'm just gonna do in a separate browser window. So let's go there. Here, my tab here, refresh because I changed the code. And you see go to Google there. If I click, it's gonna go to Google. There you go. I can go back. Okay, that's the hyperlink. Now, obviously, you can have hyperlinks to your own pages. So let's learn how to do that. Basically the same thing except the path or URL is different. Back to VS Code. I'm going to create a new file here under src. Let's call it sign up. Make a sign up page. Signup.html. Okay, let's add a boilerplate. I think VS Code, you can type HTML and tab, and it will make the open and closing tag. That's kind of nice trick. And then head tab, so it creates both. And then I'm gonna add the body tab, so it creates the body there. If you want to add a title here, go between the tags, title, tab. It should add the open and close. And let's say sign up. And this is the sign up page about that for now. Somebody would sign up or register an account. Great. Now, how can we link from index to that page? Let me put it here at the bottom so you can see it's there. You can split down and it should have different panels. So let's see. Let's say here up there, I'm going to add a link, right? Anchor tag. And then I have to say href equal sign, double quotes, double quotes. Okay, now what do I put here for a page local? Like it's relative. So you just got to think about, okay, where's index.html right now? It's under src. And where's sign up? Where it's under the same directory. If they are in the same directory, I can just use relative path, which is basically the name of the file, sign up.html. And then you can close that open tag, write the link, maybe sign up, and then close with the angle brackets. And there's a sign up link. If I click, should go to the sign up page. Because it's relative, it works here fine. It doesn't go anywhere else. So I can click to go back. Now let's say I go to sign up, but I want to click a link to go back to home. How would I do that? So I'm here, sign up. Let's add a link here to home. So anchor tag, href, what's the name of the file? Index.html, they're in the same directories, therefore I can just say index.html and give it a label. Let's call it home, like that. Save it. You can refresh this, by the way. It should open there. Okay, click home, it goes back. Click sign up, goes to sign up. Click home, it goes back. Okay. That's how you link pages together. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, now let's do some more tags that are interesting about images. Let's go here back to index and under subsection, I will add an image. How to add an image? Well, it's the img element. img. So angle brackets, img, close it. Now nothing appears because you got to tell it what's the image you want to show. Like the link, it needs metadata, attributes. So we're going to add an attribute by going to the open tag and space, and you're going to add src. That's the name of the attribute that the image uses. It's not href, don't confuse. src stands for source. And okay, let me give you an image here. Find one. The Dalmatian dog image. I found this image on a search engine, by the way. Let me show you how you can get an image if you don't know. Go to your browser, any search engine, for example, go bing.com. You can click images, search, and you can find dog, for example, whatever you want. Click one of them, right? Click this one, and you can click view image, and it should open the image in a new tab. And you can click the address bar, copy that. This is the URL. That's what you want for the source of the image. Okay, with that out of the way, moving back, I can go here. Let me put it down there. For the source, paste that, and you're gonna see the image. That's just too big, hard to see, so you want to resize it always. Okay, so in pure HTML can add more attributes, actually, to tell more about this image. So you can add another attribute either before here or after the quotes here. Either way, it should work the same way. Now, the attribute is called width if you want to change the width, for example, 100. And the unit would be pixels, but you don't have to say px. If you want to change the height, you can add height here, like 50. But if you notice, if I change the height as well, it will stretch, kind of squeeze the image. So if you omit one of them, it will try to adjust the other dimension, obeying the original aspect ratio, that is the width over height. Okay, so if you want to increase a little bit, 150, like that. That way the user can see it, you don't have to scroll, it's not just too big. Another thing you want to add for images is to describe it with the alt attribute. You want to describe the image like a very specific, like a Dalmatian dog. Useful for many things. For example, if for some reason the image is broken, that is no longer exists, it will appear as a broken image icon usually, and a description what was meant to be there. Another use case for accessibility, people who cannot have a hard time seeing or are blind, they would actually use a screen reader, which is a program that reads out loud the website. So as they go through this, even though they can't see the image, they would hear a Dalmatian dog, and they would understand that this part of the website was meant for the picture of a Dalmatian dog. Okay, so that's images. Let me show you how to do audio. So under the dog here, I'm gonna add an audio tag like this. And this is to play sounds like audio player. No, Spotify, you want to play music. So you can add audio like that. But by the way, before I move on, notice image, I didn't put a closing tag like this because image is a special case called a self-closing tag. You don't have to have a closing tag for image. Okay. Moving on, the audio, you have to have closing tag like that, but you don't see anything by default. So you got to add controls to attribute like this. And notice this attribute doesn't have a value. So it's kind of implicit. It's kind of like a true or false Boolean value. So it just means please show controls. So you can just say controls and it will see the player there now. Now you got to tell it like the image source, where's the audio to play? Let me give the audio here that I have of the dog barking. That's from my repository. So and if I click play, the dog barks. All right, you can't see here in the recording, but if I click play, the dog is barking. Okay, let me show you how to do video now. Let me put in a different section. I want to go Lauren Ipsum after this paragraph here. We're gonna add, it's called a video tag, so video. It's very similar to audio. Close it and then add controls to show something. There you go, the video player. And then source, just like audio. Let me give you a video of Big Buck Bunny that you find on the internet. Like that. Paste it. And I paste, it's like the image, very big, so I want to add width here, attribute. Let's say 150, and then the height adjusts accordingly. Maybe that's to make it bigger like that. And then click play, and the video will play. Okay, pause that. Now, I noticed the source I used was from the web, but if you want a relative one from your, you can actually use relative ones by just putting them in the source directory, and then you can just say their file name. If I had a file name like that, bigbuckbunny.mp4 here and under source, I could play the video that was there. You can do your own local video or audio or whatever, or images even, right? You can have an image locally here and just give its path in the file system or relative. Okay, I hope that's clear so far. Now, let's think about this here, a video. Under the video, I want to add some lists. Probably seen bullet point lists or numbered lists. How do we do that in HTML? It's so you need two elements. First is the container for the list, and then you need the at each list item. So it's gonna be interesting because you have two separate elements, one for the container, and then you got to include inside multiple list items. So for the bullet point, the bulleted list is angle brackets UL, which stands for unordered list, no particular order. And then inside that, make sure to close it here, otherwise you forget. Inside that, between the open and closing, you got to add the list items. And that's just called li. For example, let's add lorem3 here, tab, and then close of li. And you should see a bullet point followed by this text. If you need more bullet points, just add more li's like this, li. Let's type some random text, lorem2, li. You can break a line, have them separate in each line. That's easier to see. That's what I do usually. Let's see a second bullet point. If you want to do that trick of creating open and closing tag, you can just type li in VS Code and tap tab, and it should generate the open and close, and type some random text, Lauren1, for example. And there you go, another bullet point. Okay, now if you want to convert this to the numbered list, you can just change the container element and it will change accordingly. Change it to OL, which stands for ordered list, which means it keeps some order. Don't forget to change the closing tag. Now you can see 1, 2, 3. And automatically you see the numbers. As you add more, for example, LI, the fourth one, it will add the 4 dot here, 4 point. So that's very nice. So those are lists. Obviously, there are other kinds of lists in HTML. So here's how I would do it about finding out about other elements. Let me show you. One way is go to the browser. Let's say how to make bullet list HTML, and we'll point you to several websites. W3 Schools is a good one. MDN is another one. So let's see this one. So you would go here, read about that. You can even try for yourself. The left-hand side, you can change the code and it will manifest on the right-hand side. So for example, I change coffee to something else. Hello. And I click run and should see hello here. So very nice website. So you can go like this. If you want to, everyone, how do I make a link in HTML? Just search. Obviously, these days, people have AI chatbots. You can always ask your AI, ChatGPT, whatever, how do I do something HTML? And it will tell you. Okay, another way is you can actually inspect other people's website. Let's say I want to, how do they build this try for yourself button here? I can right click, inspect, and open the dev tools. It will actually highlight for me and it can read, oh, this is element A, which is anchor. Oh, okay. How do they build this list? Right click, inspect. Oh, it's actually li inside a UL like we just did. Okay. Then you can play around that and understand how other people build their websites. So you can click this P, you can click the other stuff to investigate. Okay, very powerful, the developer tools. Okay, with that, I think it's time for us to take a break.